Robert is going to host a discussion on what happens when we die. No, not the big question of what happens to our spirit when we die, but the almost as big question, what happens to our Tai Chi knowledge and experience? Is creating YouTube videos enough? And I know I create a lot of YouTube videos. I know Robert Chuckrow creates a lot, but YouTube has almost 15 billion videos. Now, they're not all Tai Chi, I hasten to add, but there are a lot of videos there. Have we trained enough people well enough to follow our lead? And will they? That's something that maybe we can talk about. What other mechanisms to transmit our knowledge are there? Do people still read books? I wrote. I have about 3 books on my bedside table, quite big ones, that my daughter gave me to read because my son had given them to her and she's given them to me. And it's a series that we're reading, and they've now been on my bedside table for 2 months without a page being turned. Or should we just accept that Tai Chi is pretty much an individual journey, and it's okay if what we know just disappears? Which I must admit, I'm gonna jump to the end right at the beginning. Reading that just now, it did occur to me, of course, I do have a very long view of everything. It does occur to me, of course, it doesn't matter. You know, give it X billion years and it will be gone. So maybe it is an interesting insight into. Hi, John, again. It is an interesting insight into our own egos, this discussion. Who would like to kick off? Who would like to say something erudite? Yes, Steve, unzap yourself, sir. Yeah. Off you go.
Not at all erudite, but just coincidental. That this topic has come up recently with people I've been practicing with, who you know very well, Simon and Barry. And one of the things there is, as you know, Simon is very traditional in who he has trained with and values where his knowledge comes from and tries to pass it on as best he can. And in fact, only yesterday at a training session, Barry was saying, when this is gone, you realize it has gone. There is no one really following up on this depth and level of knowledge to pass on. Now, that may or may not be true, and I know I've got a large audience here who will have different views. But even if it's a scattering of people who are passionate about what they do and look into the history, the traditions, the understanding, even though we're not Chinese and the way we think is unlikely to take in the full understanding. And I sort of look at it 2 ways. The days of, you know, probably people like Li Tianji are turning in their grave and thinking, oh, this is not what I meant. It's already changed. It will continue to change. I don't think there's much we can do about it. It's just, forgive the pun, the Chinese whispers, we will pass on what we understand and somebody else will pass it on and it will change as it gets transmitted. The loss of thought that goes with my train of thought has just gone out the window, but I'll come back to that in a minute. Oh yes, that was it, videos and books. I personally cannot learn from DVDs and videos. I can refresh my memory of something I've already been taught, and I find it good as like a bookmark. It takes me back and I look again and I think through and it comes back to me. But starting from the beginning is not very useful to me. I can't really see or understand what they're doing. And having recently been shown and asked to comment on a video of someone who was doing the 24 step and was supposedly quite a high level karate guy, I didn't want to make any comments without knowing who his teacher was, but I eventually found out he had just learnt it off YouTube and he seemed to think that was enough now to teach it himself. And I looked at his karate and I wondered who awarded him his grading there, because he didn't appear to have any understanding of movement, martial intent. It just was not there. So, yes, it concerns me that it's going to deteriorate. It will more deteriorate through the social media that everybody thinks that's what it is. I don't need a teacher. I've seen 5 minutes of it on YouTube. I can do it. It's not going to be the same. Curmudgeon, the old bugger, signing off. But that's what I think about it. I think it is going to slowly deteriorate, and I don't think there's much we can do about it, apart from keep trying.
I'll ask you a follow-up question, if I may, Steve.
Yeah.
Does it matter?
Um, to me, to a certain extent, but I'll pop my clogs within the next few years, so it won't matter then. It's personal. The people learning it now, no, they'll appreciate what they're being taught. If they get taught well, they'll appreciate it more. If not, it will slowly become a physical exercise. Let's just jump up and down and wave our arms around. And that may be what happens. I don't know.
Yes, Sue. Sorry, are you finished, Steve? Yep. Sue, you look eager to jump in.
Well, I find this a very interesting subject, to be honest. What happens to all knowledge when we die? And I believe in the collective consciousness. I think the way we're evolving and how quickly we're evolving anyway, in every aspect, I think there must be something that stays in I don't know, in the souls that move forward or whatever. I don't. Nobody knows. Nobody knows what happens after we die, and nobody knows where that knowledge goes. But I think we are moving so fast, uh, and there's so many things that are evolving that there must be something. I mean, how did 3-year-olds, 5-year-olds know how to, um, work a brand new phone? I don't know how to work them. Like, we just had this conversation earlier with John. We have to ask the children, how do they know it? It really interests me in a big way how this happens. But and I as far as my classes go, I try to teach them everything that I learn. When I learn something new, maybe one of you guys say something, maybe I watch one of your YouTube videos. I've been spending a lot of time playing with fascia since watching Robert's video. So I think you had the young man there with you, pushing you away. And I try it and play with it with my students. And hopefully I'm helping them that should I get hit by a bus tomorrow, they have as much knowledge as I do, and hopefully I give them the ideas to go and have a look out for themselves and have a look and find information and carry on. So I think, do we need YouTube videos? I think Stephen's very right. I think they are better to just to go back and check something and just have a look and see, oh yeah, I'm not quite doing that right. I can tweak this here or do that. But to learn from a YouTube video or even a DVD, I think is very, very difficult as a beginner. And I've got no idea how anybody learns from a book, because unless you have some knowledge to start with. I remember when I first started Tai Chi, I must have read, I don't know, 20 or 30 books, and I put them down and I had no clue what I just read. Now, if I read them, I've got a little bit more insight. Not loads more, to be honest. Sometimes I still have to do a lot of research. And what does this mean? And then go back and have a look. So I think the collective knowledge is helpful. I think the fads on the social media eventually will die down, because people will start to realize that it's not Tai Chi. They just want your money, and nobody really cares about Tai Chi. They're just using the words because it's the new fad. And those people will, just like when they start the gym and eventually stop going to the gym, or join a dance class and stop dancing, eventually that'll move on, and then they'll move on to something else. So I just think all knowledge is great. And I think, it's really good idea to please don't stop putting your YouTube videos up because I look at them. So, and hopefully a lot of other people do. So I think if we teach our students everything that we know, or as much as we possibly can, and give them the same passion and help them to grow, then they'll carry on after we've done. And hopefully younger people will keep coming and we'll keep moving on. That's what I think anyway.
Yeah, no, thank you. John is nearly as keen to jump in as you were. So yes, John.
I agree with a lot of what Sue said. I try to teach my students everything I know. And my sort of assistant teacher, deputy teacher, my daughter, who also learnt with John Ding in the beginning, is capable of running a class. But what I think the problem is not passing on the knowledge. And I would just chip in there. Somebody said to me years ago, I can't teach you Tai Chi, you have to learn it. And I think that's probably where the problem comes in. It's not passing on the knowledge, it's people understanding what you're passing on. I am not even close to what my master taught me and what he could do. I could probably take on some of the other teachers these days, but because I think a lot of them didn't understand either, now that I've studied. And this is the other thing. Robert, I know you've put a lot of time in studying it, and you've done classes with other teachers, different styles and all the rest of it. And it's all very well, we talk about them not practicing. How many of them actually study? Now, I know one or two that do. And it's not just reading the books, it's watching the videos, it's going to other teachers, which I don't encourage anybody to do. But it's, I think that almost every, Dr. Chakra might disagree with me here, but every bit of knowledge you try to pass on is bound to get watered down based on how much the next person understands. Now, they might understand more than you do, and they might develop it, but and as I was just saying, trying to say, it might be different in physics, but with the physical things that we do, and in the end, it is physical. It's almost bound to decline. I don't see how it can't.
Okay, thank you, John. Lewis, I see you want to jump
in.
Yeah,
I go straight to the end. Does it matter? It doesn't matter, in my opinion, because once the knowledge is spread, people will make it their own and will change it inevitably, and we'll see different ways of developing. And Tai Chi, in this case, I think it has been rich enough. Like I think it's Francis that says that it's like a big library where each master only catches 2 or 3 books. And it's a very interesting view. I can give you a practical example. In this last year, I've tried to put up an application with AI that picks up the young family style and manage to teach individually the students, picking up the information. It collects the way that the student is practicing by the video, and it shows the deviations from that, and it's supposed to work as a complement to presential classes. But the main teachers in the Yang family were totally opposed to it, which is very curious.
Yeah, well, you know, I've got a secret and I want it to be my secret, and I might let you have a bit of the secret, but you mustn't. Yeah. I do have an opinion on that, but it includes words like "go fuck yourselves" to people like that. I'm afraid, which is not the most polite. And that's not you know, I don't think there's any racial bias in that at all. In other words, I've met Chinese masters who are incredibly giving and sharing and want to pass their knowledge on and want you to pass their knowledge on. And I've met Chinese instructors who wouldn't tell you the time of day. But I've also had that happen to me in America, both the giving ones and the no, it's all mine. And if I think back far enough, I've had it happen in this country. Actually, far enough isn't actually that many years ago. Thinking about it, yeah, I think you're doing the right thing, though, Louis. Lewis, you try and push the information out there, and if anybody doesn't like it, sorry, it's not copyright. Go take a long walk off a shore pier.
Sure, but that takes me to the second part of in following what Hugh and John were talking about, which is it's an evolution. Their posture and my posture, and most of us here, I believe, to teach as much as we can from what we learn, and that is already an evolution, and you can see that in the texts from the Yang family, from what reached to us. It was the big change can be pointed to that era, where they say, if we don't make this popular, this will disappear. And they start teaching openly. And that was an evolution, because before that, it was only for the family. And even after that, the schools were for making money. They were not for teaching what they knew. They were not for teaching the secrets. So it would have been lost anyway, and we might have lost many things. Yang Jung, for instance, says that he is not clear. He doesn't have a clear idea on how Yang Luchan trained. They have some idea, but they're not exact. They don't teach because they don't have that information. While Fu Xingchuan says the opposite, that he's the real one. And this will be, it has been, like you said, our trajectory, and will continue. There will be people that want to hang to the little things they have, and there will be people that want to share the little things they know. And somehow, what I was saying with my example of the application was, there will be other ways to provide the knowledge besides just the presential way, because they will be complemented, or they'll totally replace in some cases, because the fact that now this is a global activity makes that people that don't have access direct to a master, if there are in the market ways of getting that knowledge, they'll use it. But that's my view.
Thank you, John. Yes, John.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Just something there in terms of what we lose. A lot of it's different anyway. I have practiced with the Yang Family Association. I've met Sue at one of their events. The Tai Chi, the Yang Tai Chi that I do, is different, although we both claim to do the traditional form. Mine comes from Yang Sao Chung. We had a talk about him a few months ago. and on a fairly short line, because John Ding was the first disciple of Yang Xiaochung's first disciple. I find the Yang family missing bits. The form has got holes in it. The one we do is a lot more complicated. And so there's a big gap there. But the Yang Family Association, great respect for Yang Jun, but and he's obviously expressed some doubts himself, but it does come from a different line. So what are we, in that case, what are we passing on, and what have we lost already?
Yeah, I think that's right. Something something that you said, I think initially, Sue, this thing about if you learn something, you pass it on to your students. I have a sort of a series of sayings in my mind that get trotted out fairly regularly to my students, and one of them, just rephrasing it slightly, is that I will tell a student the same thing many times, even if that student probably knows that. I am aware of, teaching my grandmother to suck eggs, but I would always rather teach my grandmother to suck eggs than not have a student know something. And the other thing which goes with that is that I always say, I will tell, and I did this to a couple of students yesterday, I will tell you things that are above your pay grade, but I would rather they were in there somewhere, so that when your body or your mind is ready to remember or assimilate or reintegrate those things, hopefully it'll be there. The downside to teaching what you know, apart from the obvious one in my case, that it's not of a hell of a lot that I know to begin with, the downside of teaching everything you know is that there are a goodly number of students that pretty much any instructor has that don't actually want to know. I have, and I'm sure you have, Sue. I can see that little hand raised. I will. Yeah, that's it. Whoa! I have students that we've been where we live now for 10 years. I have students that have been with me now for nearly 10 years, and they vary from people that practice virtually every day to people that train once a week for 1 hour and never think about Tai Chi in between times. Such is life. Sue, you want to jump in? Yes.
I just wanted to agree with you there with what you're saying there. When I teach my class, I've got a mixture of brand new people from maybe only been to 3 or 4 sessions to people who's been with me since I started teaching 8 years ago. So when we start, we do a warm up together, and then I split the class up, and one of the coaches or other instructors takes one group, and I'll take the other group or whatever. And then at the end, the last 20 minutes of the class before closing, I always go back to the first section. So I do Yang Family. So I'm right at the very beginning, raise hands and step forward. But I bring the whole class together. And then I say to everybody, I say, right, this is for you guys. I'm going to give you more information because they've already been through the form probably twice all the way to the end. And each time they go back, they learn a little bit more and a little bit more. And then to the guys who are brand new, I say, right, okay, I just want you to copy. But maybe some of this information will sit in the back of your mind. And then later on, you'll go, oh, yeah, I get that now. Because I remember I didn't learn any applications to the form for probably a couple of years. I was doing the form, waving my hands around with not really much understanding. And when I started to learn the applications, it was like so many aha moments. I was like, oh, God, I know what I'm doing now. Why didn't you tell me that ages ago? And so I do teach the application with each move, not because I'm teaching them a martial art, but because I want them to understand what this means, why they're doing that, where the energy is coming from, and the 10 essentials, upper body, lower body coordination, and what's happening within their bodies, as well as just how to stand and how to drop your shoulders and how to relax your waist and have your head nice and tall, as well as everything else, all those other bits. And I think they come together later. But I think if you've got an understanding from an early, from early on, then it's going to help later on, definitely. Well, I believe so anyway.
Yeah.
Thank you. By the way, you've just triggered a question that I want to ask everybody, because I was teaching. Is it the second class? Can't remember. Teaching yesterday or the day before, and we were talking about this thing about relaxing the shoulders. And my question to everybody as instructors is it just me that finds way too often, I'm like the Frankenstein monster?
Yeah.
Or does that actually happen to everybody? Is it just me? Or raise your hands if you too occasionally will notice. Oh, good. Good. Right. Lovely. Okay. At least a few of you. I'm not completely alone then. Anyway, back to the main.
It's important to remember, Robert. I mean, okay, Robert, Chuck, Rowe, Billy. I mean, I don't know the rest of you particularly, but you you've got this flow and this wonderful, I don't know, you've probably been doing this for like 300 years or something, maybe in 4 or 5 past lives, I don't know, but for me, when I'm teaching, you're trying to talk, you're trying to breathe, you're trying to do the applications, you're trying to show the energy, you're trying to step in the right stances, you're trying to get your body to move, and you're also trying to keep an eye on everybody to make sure they're not hurting themselves or wobbling or falling over. For me, that does raise my shoulders. So yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that, Sue. Thank you.
If they want Russ, to help me, that'd be great.
Yeah. Russ, have you anything to say on the subject? You're sitting there very quietly.
Yeah, I actually kind of do because, of course, now this is several years past, but now I don't know, maybe I'm just positioning myself more as a gateway as opposed to trying to be, the great grandmaster or anything like that, people will have my picture hanging on their wall and in their lineage string. But I did have a youngling once that was my student, and youngling, I mean, he was like 30. And he was very dedicated in his practice, and I could tell that. He then fell on financial hard times. I tried to get him to keep coming anyway, but he, just refused out of his own personal principles. Then when he came back, he didn't come back to me. He went to this other guy, long-haired, Jesus-looking dude in a Chinese suit, and and that guy had a new lexicon then that intrigued him. My lexicon is not the I guess typical Chinese. I'm a William C.C. Chin lineaged person. So, a lot of that, type of talk to me kind of went away, and it functioned more on, body mechanics and neuro this and that. And but the other thing then is I'm also teaching in primarily a group exercise type of format through the YMCA. And so I have to teach to this bell curve of people that have been with me for like 4 years to people who have been with me for like 4 seconds, that they don't know what Tai Chi is. These people now appreciate what Tai Chi is, and they appreciate what I'm actually saying. And then these people here that are still kind of trying to figure out, why am I doing this? And, my wife made me come or something like that. But, so but I like what going back to Sue's point is like I tell them, you know, because I'll talk to that more advanced group as I go through some of the basics, but I'll tell the people over here that are still trying to figure out what to do with their hands that, you know, if they don't understand what I'm saying, then it's not for them that day. And then, but 2 years from now, you're not going to be able to accuse me of holding out on you, because I'm going to tell you everything I know now. And so you're not going to be able to say, like, oh, why didn't you tell me that 2 years ago? Well, I did. You just weren't ready to hear it. And then so now, I'm working with a small group of people that have been with me for a long time, on some of the, you know, body mechanics applications and martial applications and push hands and things like that that I really can't do in the YMCA format, although I'm trying to pitch a separate, small group personal training type thing to the YMCA to do that, because some of these people need that. I'm starting to see where, oh, you really need push hands to, take your Tai Chi to the next level. But I did a little bit of that in my classes this week, and the people that just want to come and move around for an hour are kind of scowling at me. And but like I say, I have that small group, and there's one lady in particular that she had a lot of Tai Chi experience before, but so I know she's starting to kind of look out to other people. And to me, she hasn't digested even what little I know, um to be branching out. But that's cool. But I do recognize she's even pulled a little small group out of the Y, and they're doing like a little study group, to get themselves through the William C.C. Chin 60 movement form, and that I'm not really focusing on in my classes these days. And so they
Sorry, I'm just
I'm
going to interrupt you for a
starting to
second.
try
Just
to bring
one
her
second,
around.
Russ. Robert, have you got some kind of noise in the background? Your computer keeps taking focus away from Russ. It doesn't matter if people are gallery viewing, but if anybody's not, it'll be affecting them. Oh, you're muted now, Robert. If you're muted, it should be okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
no,
if
it's
you mute
not.
yourself.
It's not me. There's no sound here, and
Oh, right.
I muted
Okay.
it so you would know that it did.
Right.
It was.
Oh,
I'm going to mute it. See if it's still.
Oh,
okay.
I'm going to
Thank you.
mute myself. There's a band playing in our local pub. I'm wondering whether it might be that, so I'm going to
It
mute
didn't.
myself just in
It wasn't
case.
highlighting you on my one. But anyway, yeah. If
Okay.
everybody can mute themselves, and then
So anyway,
I'm muting myself while I'm still talking, though. If everybody mutes themselves except for us, shut up, Billy. If everybody, you know what I mean. Russ, over.
okay. So anyway, I recognize that, now some of these guys are like, maybe approaching her first with their questions in the class and things like that. And, I'm okay with that. But I have kind of now pulled her aside to essentially, let her know that I want to spend more time, bringing her up to snuff, because they are looking to her. And, the study group that they have. And um you know and there's another guy that had been with me for a long time. I see him mimicking the way that she does certain things incorrectly in my mind. And so I'm like, oh, I gotta spend more time with her, get her straightened out, because they're doing what she's doing. And so in that respect, you know I'm trying to create another teacher. But my other point is that other youngling that I lost, that school had like, oh, once you learn the form, you're a first level teacher. once you learn the sword form, you're a second level teacher. And they have those kind of certificate things that, I didn't have. It's almost like a belt system, that they use. And, some people need that. Um, so, but does it matter? I don't know that, I can't have anxiety over that, or that wouldn't be in accordance with the way either. Now, would it? So,
I don't know, because I've never figured out quite what the way is, but there we go. That's a whole separate discussion. Robert Chakro, you not only raised your physical hand, you've raised your electronic hand. I'm most impressed, sir. Over to you.
Yeah, I'm listening to all the things that people are saying is so good, and I agree with everything. I just wanted to, having thought about the topic, I wanted to say a couple of things, and that is that throughout history, a lot of knowledge has been lost. We know that. Bach, who I think is the greatest composer that ever lived, one of the greatest geniuses that ever lived, his music was lost, but then it was revived, and they're still finding things. You go to YouTube and see how people play it. It's Bach, and it's these virtuosos never make one mistake. But what they do with that music is unbelievably bad. I don't know what's going on. They put in their own changes just for fun, and it's just not, it's not the same. It's not the same anymore. But anyway, information has been lost. The Tao Te Ching and the I Ching were found, I think, in walls, because a lot of books were lost or burned. Supposedly an emperor burned all the books or killed all the scholars. That may not be true. I was trying to research it. But throughout history, knowledge has been lost. Supposedly Atlantis was on a very high level and is now under the ocean. We had dark ages, but things come and go. The point is that with Tai Chi, a lot of it has been lost. There's just no question about that. And most of it is totally watered down, what I see, and artificial intelligence is taking a lot of it over. This now new thing about Tai Chi walking, and I actually wrote the first book on that. The stuff that you see now, you see these guys with tremendous muscles that you can get from Tai Chi walking, and unbelievable stuff. People doing things, acrobatics as a result of Tai Chi walking is ridiculous. But knowledge has always been in small pockets, and there are 3 reasons that it doesn't go out to a lot of people. One is the government suppresses it. Another reason is the people who have the knowledge don't want to share it. They don't want to give it out, or they can't. They're not willing or able. And I see that a lot of them who want to are not able necessarily. They don't have the language skills. They don't have the teaching skills. The third reason is that people don't want it. Most people don't want the knowledge. They're satisfied with a watered-down version of it, and don't even care about going further. That's the way most people are. I see that. And that's the main reason why the knowledge doesn't go out to a lot of people. But as long as it's still not lost totally, I think there's a good chance it can come back. So it's books. I'm reading Cheng-Min Ching's books. I studied with Cheng-Min Ching. I don't feel I learned anything other than the most bare bones, the kindergarten version of the form. I don't see that other people who are teaching it, who are my classmates or beyond are doing anything beyond that, and I don't see anything from that. But if you read his books, it's amazing what he's put into some of his books that I've gotten so much from. Books are very important, and they can last a long time. So websites, I think, if I die, I don't think my website will last. I don't think anybody will want to do anything with it. Maybe I'll put it in my will that it has, you know, I want my remains to be cremated and I want my website to survive. I don't know how that'll work, but I think the YouTube videos, people do affect some people and they do learn something from it. And the students that I've taught, I think, will carry on, some of them, and some of them have tremendous amount of what I've have taught them. Even people who've only been with me small number of years, less than 10 is to me a small number of years. But I'm starting to teach young kids, and somebody called me and said, my kid is 9 years old. Can he learn Tai Chi? And I said to myself, I'm not going to say what I normally do is I don't teach kids. I said, bring him, see what happens. And this kid was amazing. He's now 11. A couple of classes ago, he came up to me and he put out his arm in ward-off posture, and he said, feel this. And I touched his arm. He has Neijin. He got it. He has it. Two of my students who are Chinese got together and they were doing the swinging that I do with the timing that I do it, the way I learned it from Sam Chin. And the 2-year-old grandson started doing it perfectly. I can't get people to learn this except for a few exceptions. For years, they just do one-to-one movement. They don't get the timing right. This kid got it just in a minute, seeing the adults do it. And they took a video. Do you want to see the video? Can I share my screen? Robert? You're muted.
Yes, sorry, I put my thumbs up, but you didn't see it.
Okay,
Yes,
I'm going to get the video, if I can find it. Oh.
I let me just make a note of the timing though, because I won't show it on the recording version for obvious reasons.
It's only a few seconds, but
yeah, carry on.
2-year-old kid. I don't.
While he's looking,
how much could he know? And suddenly he's doing this.
Yeah.
So
I want to
share
jump
the
on
screen? Should I try? Let's see if it works. Then the host disabled participant screen sharing.
Hold on, let's see if I can turn you on. Sorry, Russ, did you want to say something while Robert and I are trying to figure out how to?
Yeah, just the fact about books. The thing that I find limiting most about books, and you know I know people on the call that have written some brilliant books, but that it's hard to communicate the feel of the internal aspects, and you still have to experience those things, I think, in person. The books inspire me now to, like, oh, okay, I read that thought. I'm going to take that. Next time I do push hands with the dude, I'm going to take that thought into my practice. And you know, if you ask my wife, I have way too many books. And I'm even, finding maybe that I do. But it's but again, they're each one a different lexicon. And I think that's the other thing that I was kind of alluding to, is that, I get these people, they, they've been listening to me for 3, 4 years now. They hear somebody else's new lexicon and it's like, oh, that's new. Newer is better, right? And so I think that's one of the reasons why William C.C. Chen continually evolved his lexicon from body mechanics to neuro whatever, and all these other sort of things. My teacher always said, he's just doing that to say like, oh, you'll never get it, but and keep people coming to his seminars. But um, you know, it's that's the value that I find in books is I can flip my
Russ,
lexicon.
I agree with you on the books thing, because I was confronted a couple of years ago. I had to do the certification for Tai Chi instructors here, and I also have too many books. And one of the things I did was I pick up different books and I made an Excel file and I compared the descriptions on the form, and I was amazed on how little information those books really have. And that took me to another discovery, which is there's this book called The Boxer's Manual. I don't know if anyone knows the title. That is a study on martial arts manuals, what throughout the story, how they were written, why they were written, what was their purpose, and all of that. And it's very well documented. And there are very, very different types of books. Even when we think that the basic material is the same, because there are not that many variations of the origins of the Tai Chi, and there are not very extraordinary explanations that we have besides the classics and the many interpretations of the classics. They don't really bring much more, but the reality is that there are very different types of books for the very different purposes, but most of them are very thin on knowledge. They're just descriptions of the way to execute the form on a very superficial level, because there is no internal aspects taught. There is no, even breathing is like breathe in when you do this and then breathe out, and then they show you a picture if they have the picture. So the reason I see why people cannot learn with these materials is because these materials are not made to learn. They are made as a reference, and they were always made as a reference for people. Now, especially in the West, I think we have different types of books where there is a more philosophical approach, even more historical correct approach to those concepts, and then you learn things that you couldn't learn you cannot learn it in a class. Any one of us, like Sue was saying, we have so many things to worry about when we are teaching a class that the theory is on the end of the list. Unless I keep saying to my students, well, one day we have to sit down and talk about this, but now we have other things to do.
That's I'll come to you. You should be able to share in a moment, by the way, Robert. But what Lewis just said is very interesting, because I think we've probably all got this. There are certain aspects that we would like to teach to our classes, but the classes, who are people that are paying for being there, are not able or willing or ready to learn. I mean, I teach a mainly older demographic. I don't do push hands. I'm a great hater of push hands. I've done a lot of it, and I think 99% of all push hands is crap, and I'll fight anybody who says otherwise. But yeah, no, we'll get together. I love Colorado Springs. I haven't been there in 30 years. I would love to come back and learn. I mean, just before COVID, I spent a week with Niels Klug at the where is it? Hanover, the push hands thing he does every year, and it was lovely. It was great fun. But what I do have is I do have a number of exercises that I teach that are partner exercises that I teach in the place of push hands. Very simply for you, Russ, my problem with push hands is I think it gets competitive when it should be cooperative. But anyway, different discussion. And yeah, I would like to come to Colorado Springs. I'll have to figure that one out. Sorry, Lewis, you were saying, oh, yeah. Anyway, I'm gone off on a tangent. Robert, share your 2-year-old with us. That sounds disgusting.
Okay, this is the 2-year-old kid.
Oh, we gotta show that to Robert. We gotta show this to Robert. Okay, you are.
One more time.
We gotta show that to Robert. We gotta show this to Robert. Okay, you are.
And let's see. And he everything was correct. He wasn't turning his head. He was in a good stance. It was really amazing. 2-year-old kid. So anyway, the 11-year-old kid was in class a couple of weeks ago, and they don't come every class. And the father comes with the kid, and suddenly I see a woman coming in with a little kid, and it turns out that little kid is the younger 7-year-old brother of this 11-year-old kid. And so I said to the kid, hey, maybe you'd like to try a class. And this 7-year-old kid said yes, so we'll see. But I think teaching kids, when you teach people who are in their 90s or 80s, how much are you going to teach them? How much can they do? They're so out of their bodies, most of them. Almost all of them are. There are exceptions. But when you teach little kids very young, I think that is going to be the salvation, where they can get it very fast and not have all of the baggage, all the encumbrances, all the limitations of people my age.
Well, that was my experience when I used to teach karate. I mean, you sit there and would tell, a kid, hey, do a jump back spinning dragon flying kick. And they'd go like, okay. And then they may not come even close to whatever this kick was supposed to be, but they would do it. They would do something. You tell an adult to do that, and they're going like, "Oh man, I think I pulled my hamstring or something," and they just wouldn't, that like you just said, Robert, that they have these, you know, mental limitations that they've placed on themselves. That I can't do that. I can't be flexible. I can't do that. Instead of like, oh hey, look at what I can do. So.
Yeah,
I mean, one of the problems I've got, I had a student who was very good, and then illness meant they could no longer train with me. I have another student who was very good and very fit and very athletic, but in the last 2 to 3 years, that student has noticeably aged, and it has noticeably. I'm not saying I haven't, by the way. We do a little bendy spine thing, and I love doing it because I can say to all my students, look, my spine doesn't bend anymore. Whereas 10 years ago, I had this super flexible spine thing. Now it's like, time is our enemy. One of the things I want to sort of lead us towards, and I do have a bit of an ulterior motive here, which I will disclose, is I know, Sue, you were saying you have co-instructor. I know, John, you were saying your daughter instructs. I have now, you'll be delighted to know, Russ, I have an instructor's program where people can get certificates. And I also do, by the way, Russ, also have a grading program where people can get belts, but I haven't got anybody active on that at the moment because I don't push it. It's just for anyone that wants it. My question is, who has a delineated what's the word? I can't think of the word. Who has a program to take a student who wants to instruct from where they are to being an instructor that is codified? That's the word I wanted to use. Yes, Sue, please jump in.
You're muted.
Unmute yourself. Yep.
I am muted. I was just going to say, Robert's had his hand up for a while. Do you want me to come back
Oh,
to you?
sorry, I didn't notice Robert's hand. Yes. Thanks, Sue. Wait a minute and then take Robert first. Yes, Robert.
Yes. So preschool, before they go to school, I think kids are at their best in terms of what they can learn. After they go to school, they've been filled with all kinds of wrong ideas from the antiquated way of training kids in school, and they're afraid to make mistakes. They're down on themselves if they can't learn it fast enough, because that's what school teaches them. And they've been sitting for years and not moving around. So before they go to school is the best. When they're in school, I went to a reunion, a high school reunion of the high school I taught at recently, a couple of weeks ago, and there were I taught Tai Chi as a phys ed elective there. There were a number of kids who came up to me and said, I still do Tai Chi, and I even have one of my students was an 8th grade student of mine in science, and she is still doing Tai Chi. So that, to me, this is very important. Young people is very important. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Steve, do you teach children at all or not? You've only ever taught adults.
I sometimes question that. I teach older children who call themselves adults. They're the best ones. They're still young enough to enjoy it and have fun. But no, I haven't taught children. And I think Robert's the only one here who actually knows me. It has no great surprise that I have no structure at all in the future. I only do one class a week now, and that's as much I learn from teaching as much as anything. So it not only gives me some practice, but trying to share what I'm taking in helps me to understand it. And the nature of the group is I've got nobody lined up as a successor. I mean, who could take over, Robert? You know,
You're a one-off, Steve. Yes, as of course we all are. Okay, sorry.
And just while I'm on a one-off, I was just typing a message which I'll delete. I'm going to have to go in a couple of minutes. So this is fascinating. I think all of us at the end, all we can do is pass on what we know to those who are listening, and we hope it continues. But it will keep changing then.
Say hi to Simon and Barry next time you see them from me.
Do.
I haven't seen either of them in a couple of years now.
Yeah. Will
okay.
Do,
right.
You were mentioned in dispatches.
Thank you, sir. We must get together, by the way, you and the wives, not wives plural, one each. I just don't want to confuse some of the Americans because
we'll arrange a social soon. Yeah. So
lovely.
Yeah.
Okay, so coaching, I find that it's helpful, especially when you have new people. I take new people in regularly, so people will come. Some of them will stay for 1 or 2 weeks and then they disappear because they can't handle it, or others stay. So I created my own. It's important that everybody understands that the people who are coaching know something. They don't need to know everything, of course, because they're not going to be doing the whole 103. So basically what I do is say, right, okay, so they need to know the form, be able to call out the whole of the first section with some understanding. If they can do that, stand at the front of the group and they do it, and then they get a coach certificate. So they stand at the front, call it out, telling people, understanding of bow stances and where their arms are supposed to be, and blah blah blah. And then they then can become a coach. So the reason I did that is because a lot of people like action, and they feel that if I just said to somebody, John, will you just help such and such? Is the what does he know what he's doing? And it just puts people's mind, or I find it puts people's mind at ease. So basically, once they've got to the end of third section, they don't have to do it all perfectly well, but they need to be able to get to the end of third section. I only do the 103. Well, I do the shorter forms as well, but that's just for fun. Um, and then they have to be able to stand at the front, call first section out, and then be able to get everybody's footwork and arms in place. Not necessarily do the applications. If anyone needs to know them, I'll go through it with them. And then they're a first section coach, and then they have to do the same for first and second section, and then to third section. My instructor who works with me has ranked down with Mike with the young family, and he's the only other instructor that I've got. The others are coaches, but he is ranked down. It is a bronze eagle. So yeah, or a copper eagle. Copper, that's the one. So basically, he's an instructor because of that. But I do think it's really helpful to have people working with you. I think it's handy when brand new people come in. You can't possibly teach everybody everything. So if somebody else is there to give you a hand. But I also split. I love doing first section anyway. For me, it's just great to do Grasp the Bird's Tail over and over again. I quite often just create my own little businessman's form, doing Grasp the Bird's Tail round and round and round and round and round for an hour, because it's fun and I like it. And it gives people who have come along only for a few weeks something that they can do at home. Even if they're not doing it brilliantly, stand on the garden or on the patio or on the holiday balcony and do Grasp the Bird's Tail. So yeah, I think it's important to have people working. Well, for me, have people working with me.
It occurs to me. I always talk about, count the fingers, by the way, this will confuse the Americans. I always talk about two aspects. I always talk about two aspects. I talk about Tai Chi for health and wellness, and I talk about Tai Chi as a martial art, as not separate, but slightly sort of weavy, divergent kind of paths. But I guess there is probably my mind is racing at the moment. There's probably quite a large number of other Tai Chis out there. There is Tai Chi just to get out the house for an hour. There is Tai Chi because I'm what's the word? Sinophile, somebody who's passionate about China. There is Tai Chi because I'm a historian. There is, so there's lots and lots of people out there doing Tai Chi for lots and lots of different reasons. Now, history has been mentioned a couple of times. And just like I am a barbarian when it comes to push hands, I'm also a barbarian when it comes to history. I can tell you that, when I trained with Simon Watson, he trained with Professor Li Dayin, indeed, as I did a few times. And that's the Li Tianji. But who gives a flying feathered fandango? Because I've never met Chen this or Yang that. I mean, the ones that are dead. I don't mean I've met some people that are alive. And so lineage to me and history to me has always been like, something to read on the train. Never something that as I say, I'm a barbarian, never something I could get interested in. But people who are interested in that who are the sort of the gatekeepers of the history side of things, are doing a very valid job, but it's a different valid job. So the question becomes not only what are we doing to allow the art to survive after we are gone. The question is, I guess, how, or is there a way to make sure that the art survives completely? Because the bit of the art that I will teach my student is going to be different to the bit of the art Sue teaches. Go on, Sue, jump in.
So when I'm teaching my students, because you are quite right, as are other people, some people are just there for fun. Some people are just there for company. Some people are just there because they've got nothing better to do on a Friday morning. I don't know. Not everybody wants all of the knowledge. Some people just want to come and do the form, and they're not really that bothered whether they get it particularly right. And then there's other people who want to know everything. And I talk about the yin yang symbol quite a lot, and I try to say to my students, we've got this yin yang symbol that actually is called, its real name is Tai Chi, and we've got the black part and we've got the white part, and the white part could be just you doing Tai Chi in the park, really enjoying it, nice and slow, and just doing the form and not really putting any energy into it particularly. And the black part is you putting plenty of energy into it. Or, I mean, we even try and put too much energy in every now and again. We try everything. But the black part could be the martial side of it, and they go together. So, if you work them together, you've got the martial side. Each one of these moves means something. They have an application. I'm not here to teach you a martial art, but if you understand that, then you're going to have a better understanding of doing the form, full stop. So I often just say they go together. They are one and the same, really. So I do
Lewis,
talk about
yes.
yin yang quite a lot, actually. I think I repeat myself a lot. I'm now realizing that I do actually repeat myself a lot in class.
That's good. No, that's not bad. That's good because it fills up time and it lets you earn more money. That's great. Go for it.
And it's like children's stories. You tell them, they understand something, but they don't grab all. But as they get the repetitions, they will learn more as they advance. But one thing I was fond of what you're saying, Sue, is, and it's a very interesting question for me, because I trained in another school from Yang Junming for 25 years, and it was all based on the martial, the big focus on the martial side. And now with the Yang family is more on the health side, and I found it much more difficult to explain on the health side the Tai Chi than it was on the martial. And now I train a group that really is not at all interested in the martial art. So I cannot explain them the application that if somebody punches you, you do this, because I'll just scare them out. But there is no accompanying information that explains that side that you can use. I can use some concepts from Chinese medicine, a little bit from the philosophy, the yin and yang, the 5 elements, and all that. But even that is very far for most of the people. They don't know anything about the Chinese culture, and probably they're not very interested. They can find it curious, but on the health side, I think there is a big lack of information on Tai Chi, and the scientific papers that I've read are not a great help on that.
No, you've got a good point there. I mean, there's two aspects you bring up there. One is the fact that a lot of Chinese medicine is of historical interest more than of medical interest. The Chinese philosophy of honoring the elders and keeping old medicine in with new medicine, as opposed to the Western idea of if you have a new medicine, it supersedes the old medicine, makes an understanding of Chinese medicine difficult in the first place. And yeah, if people are not interested in the martial side, you're quite right to explain that doing that is good from a health point of view is very different to trying to explain that that is good if you want to stick your fingers in somebody's eyes. It is a challenge to teach people, and of course there is so much out there. You know, Russ, who I'll come to you next. Russ has mentioned about other people teaching their bit of it or teaching in their way, as it were. That if you're trying to teach if I'm trying to teach what I believe is correct to people that are going to teach the same thing, that is difficult. I have one instructor under me who's what we call a level 2 instructor, and she's actually coming for a 2-hour lesson with me tomorrow. And there are things that she teaches that are quite different to what I teach. And there are things that especially things like our loosening exercise, our warm-up exercise, there's one or two of those that she doesn't teach. She doesn't like them. She doesn't teach. Now, on one hand, that sort of grates a little bit because I do this. You're one of my instructors. Why don't you do that? On the other hand, I really like that because it shows that there's some independent thinking going on. And if Tai Chi as an art is going to survive, there has to also be change. There has to be stuff that stays the same and stuff that changes, I think. Russ.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch a little bit on what Lewis was saying, and then I want to share one proud papa moment, and then I have to bug out because I've got household chores calling me. But I always try to present in the terminology I use is like a civil side and and the martial side. Because sometimes when I present the martial side, that actually, gets more conversation. People are like, okay, well, what is this then? But like I'll, use things like William C.C. Chin, he was all full of all sorts of like civil side things like, oh, you're serving tea, for like Pong, you're reaching out, you're serving tea. And my roll back is like, oh, here's the person that's not paying attention to where they're going in the mall. And I'm just kind of moving back out of the way and then just kind of guiding them over to the side. That doesn't take a lot of energy to just, guide them over to the side. They realize like, oh, they're just kind of walking on autopilot. And then, I sit there and say like, oh, I'm deflecting their punch, grabbing their head and coming in and with a press for the people that want the more martial flavor. And then I make some joke about like, yeah, try that at your next party when someone says, oh, isn't Tai Chi, isn't that what the old people do in the park? But so my proud papa moment came because, like I say, I mostly teach through the YMCA these days and in a group exercise type of format. The YMCA doesn't like to cancel classes if you're out of town, so you have to find a substitute. So I recruited a Moving for Better Balance instructor that, she's not primarily a Tai Chi instructor, but the Moving for Better Balance program, I don't know if everyone's familiar, but they use like an 8-step Tai Chi form to kind of, help people get better balance. They do some things that are completely counter to better balance, but that's beside the point. But so I had this Moving for Better Balance instructor substitute for me, and she came back. I saw her at another event. She says like, I don't think I can substitute your class anymore. And I'm like, really? Why? This was my great group. They've been with me for years now. And she goes like, well, because I felt like they knew more about it than I did. And I'm like, yeah, they did. But so like I say, that's my one proud papa moment. And thank y'all for letting me sit in today and reap your all's wisdom
No,
as well.
thank you,
So,
Russ. Thank you. Robert, by the way, has apologized. I don't know if you've seen his chat item, but he had to go. So yeah.
Yes,
And
I have to go too. Great
okay,
to
in
see
And,
that
you.
and
case,
I've got to go as well, Robert. Sorry, I feel really
right?
bad
No,
because
it's
everybody's
okay.
leaving.
I would like to just have a brief word with you, Billy, and I'm happy to chat to you, Brian, and you, John. But yeah, we will call it a night. So thank you,
Take care.
everybody, and see you
Yeah.
hopefully next month.
Okay. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Billy, I just wanted to check in with you, and I just wanted to check in with you too, Brian, just to make sure you're both happy little bunny rabbits and well, and what scuttlebutt there is. That requires either you, Brian, or you, Billy, to actually unmute yourselves and bloody well talk. Gosh, yeah, you can smirk, Brian. Yeah.
What do you want to know? What do you want to know, Robert?
So, what are you up to then, Billy? And what are you up to, Brian? Once Billy tells us what he's up to.
Well, that Brian talk first. Let me see.
Yeah, go for it, Billy. We're waiting for you, Billy.
Oh,
I'm
me?
waiting for you.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
you. Yeah,
Oh,
unless there's anybody else called Billy on the.
Oh, I thought I said let Brian go because I think he was want to, you know.
Yeah, no. We'll let you go first. Age before beauty, isn't that right, Brian?
Yeah, absolutely.
Age before beauty. Okay, go ahead, Robert.
Assuming he's older than me, I don't know.
What does age really mean anyway, right? What are we talking about? You know, you're talking about going back. You're talking about where do you go when you're where you think your chi goes when you're gone. I think it doesn't matter about the age.